Que pasa, raza? Today we're over here with the famous Rob Vanderslice, man. And I gotta tell you, this is an interview that I've been dying to make. We're looking forward to the Albuquerque Super Show so we can come down here, and we're here. Rob is a personal friend of mine. This is a special interview for me to be able to do. Rob, how are you, man?
Doing good, and definitely good to have all you guys come down. Like I say, just you guys coming down Thursday. Of course, you guys came down Wednesday, but,
right.
But see you guys Thursday all day at City Hall, and then that cruise on Friday, and then at the show was awesome. You know, you guys are family.
Wow, yeah, that's how we feel. We feel like family,
yeah.
Man, and we love coming out here, and especially just kicking it with you.
I appreciate that.
So, Rob, I really want to focus on your career, but also a little bit of yourself, man, and your life story. And so I got to tell you, man, I remember, back in the 90s, just reading Lowrider magazine and looking through them and seeing your work and knowing you from that end. And I got to be honest with you, man, the first time I met you, I was a little starstruck, bro.
I appreciate that, man.
Man, that's Rob, man. You know what I mean? Because of all the crazy stuff and paint that you've done, that it's a Rob paint job. Like, we're walking through the Super Show and we can point them out. Oh, that's a Rob paint job. You know what I mean? Because you do stuff that people just don't do. And so tell us a little bit about your career, man.
Been painting now. Seriously, opened the shop back in 1988, doing Lowrider since 88. And, it's been a long road. Been through many trials and tribulations. And, just even started off 11 years clean from crystal meth.
Yeah.
A lot of those years, the magazine articles that you've seen in the magazine, I was the top of my game in the Lowrider game, magazine-wise. And my home life was opposite. Home life was really suffering. I'd be gone for 7 days working on cars, and it's a huge thing. But just even through the years, God used that, flipped it around. What the devil meant for harm, God used for good. So
right.
Definitely a blessing.
That's amazing, man. And I think that's what I love about you, man, is that you've lived it, man. You know what I'm saying? And you have this amazing testimony, because as you know, the channel, I created it. I'm a real teacher. I think a lot of times people don't know that, but I'm a real teacher, and my passion is working with youth. And I think it's so important for them not only to know what our real culture is as far as the lowrider community and what we're really about, but also to know that the people that are in it have a great testimony and can, like you know what I mean, the impact that you have. I know you have the Christian bike club that you run with the kids, and all those neat components that I think a kid can really dive into and not just pick up how to lay down a pattern, but when they're with you, they're also just picking up so much more, because they're taking a piece of you with them. You're a role model to them. You can talk to them about stuff that they might be going through, that a lot of times they feel like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna learn something from this dude about patterning, but they don't realize that they could talk to you. And I know that immediately they realize that. And when people leave your place, they come back with an amazing story and just a heart for Jesus. I personally know somebody that went through your class comes back and says, man, I want to be part of your Christian car club. You know what I mean?
Right,
and that's what it's all about, man, because it's about working with people, using your life story. And a lot of times when people interview me, I always say, I used to think my life was this giant mistake, and then when I was able to talk to kids, I realized, holy moly, I was just going to school so that now I could do this. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing that, so I appreciate that about you, brother. I really do.
Well, definitely. Well, I know, even to go off what you're talking about, even to look back or to try to change things, in all perspective, we want to go back and we want to change things. But I wouldn't be where I was right now, especially I wouldn't be serving the Lord first and foremost. And I wouldn't be that example, in the lowrider community. So a lot of people knew me. They knew Rob, from doing all those paint jobs.
Right.
And they seen the way I was living. A lot of people knew I was staying up all these days to do these jobs. And a lot of people here in Albuquerque, especially here in Albuquerque and in New Mexico, knew, the low spot of my life. Mm-hmm. And then to see when I did give my life to the Lord, and of course everybody's watching, They see if it's going to be for real or if it's just going to be a little phase you're going to go through. So they look for consistency.
Right.
And, and I've been consistent now serving the Lord for almost 11 years, been clean for almost 11 years. And in the lowrider community, they see that change. They see that light. And just like even we're talking about even the lowrider community, it's a whole different thing versus it was in the 90s.
Right.
It's almost my life, almost even the timeline of me living out, the customers I used to do stuff for. I mean, I've been like an honorary gang member for just about every gang you can think of.
Right.
Moved to Tucson as
Right.
pretty much a blood. Anywhere I moved, I kind of adapted to wherever I was at, and everybody always accepted me as kind of like the golden child wherever I went, just
Right.
because of my paint jobs. And for that even just to change, just even the lowrider community and just the culture even changing from that stigma like we were even talking about to what it is now. And it's like even just yesterday at the show, it's like, man, I couldn't believe how many people I seen, how many believers I seen
Right.
walking around the show. And that makes a big difference, you know what I mean? Like even Pastor Barry over there.
Yeah.
And your best way, I like the way you put it. We were kind of talking. We used to set up a prayer booth at the Lowrider show.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to come in for that. They don't want to be seen getting prayer at a lowrider show, and us almost going out as believers, just talking with people, not even just being that Christ-like example, going around the show just talking with people. The Lord sends you those people who to pray with. I mean, it's divine appointments is what I call it. So that's a huge thing. Even yesterday, able to pray with those specific people instead of setting up a prayer booth.
Sometimes they're standoffish, or they feel
Yeah.
like maybe you're going to be preachy to
Exactly.
them. And
Exactly.
so it takes time to build those relationships,
Exactly.
and that's where you see the people
Yeah.
really get close to,
Right.
to you and want to talk to you.
Right. See that you're a human being, and you know what I mean. That's what it takes. It's just being real. People don't want to see that fake.
Right.
I know Chris was talking about that, like, yeah, you praise the Lord, you know what I mean? Yeah, so.
No, that's awesome, man. And so one of the things that I think, like I said earlier, is that when you go out to a show that you can tell it's a raw paint job, how did you develop this technique, man? Because your stuff is like, you can stare at it for a week and can't just get through it all because there's so much there. How did that happen?
Man, just every job, Eric, I really, like even this one and the one, if you can see in the background, everyone wanted to be unique. So, I mean, there's so many styles out there. When I first started, I would open the magazines and
Right.
I would pick out, man, I really like that. I really like this. I really like that. I would lay it out. I would try to mimic it, for the first couple of years. And some of the jobs, the first couple of years, they were like just straight patterns from somebody's job.
Right.
And then I started creating my own style. I liked this person from this and that. And I kind of took all those styles, made it one. But with lowrider patterns, there's no rule book, even though to us there's kind of a rule book, but there's not,
Right.
And there's so many styles from the ghost patterns, from the way you bend the tape, S patterns, ribbon patterns. Now you got a lot of the French curves, a lot of the fleur de lis, kind of trying to match the engraving, and so there's just so many styles. And I was one of those ones. I wanted every job to be its own art piece, its own unique style. And of course, a lot of people, they know it's my job, but it's like they just know I'm the tasteful overkill. I try to fill in every gap. And, a lot of times I wish, I tell people I wish I could bump my head and forget half this. I don't even want to be half the time. Everybody always expects a Rob job.
Right.
And there's times it's like, man, let me do a little bit something different on this one. Let's go a little bit different of a way. Let's not the usual, it's got to be in this mold.
Right.
But, back to your question, especially when I started, I went through this phase of where I did like so many, I'd do this style and I would twist it. And almost every job, the sides would be something I had kind of did on the hood on the last car, and then I would kind of master it on the sides, and then the hood and the trunk would always be kind of the start of my idea for the sides for the next car. You know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of ended up that way. And then I went through a phase with even colors. Where I first started, it was ghost patterns. I'd shoot a silver base. I would do like black patterns, charcoal, white patterns,
Right.
flake it, candy over it, whatever color, if it was green or brandy wine. And then got into the multicolor phase where we started flaking, silvering, flaking
Right.
with multiple size flakes, clearing it, sanding it, and then doing the artwork. And then I went through a phase where I did the silver with every single color, every customer. I had to do the orange. You know what I mean? How to do the silvers with the blue, how to do the silvers with the candy gold, and you know what I mean? And then I started combining them. We're gonna do, you know, red, gold, and silver, kind of like this. You know, this was my, you know, red and gold, and then I did red, gold, and orange, and then until I finished that, and then people started mimicking that. So then I wanted to change. You know, kind of had to flip the style to something else.
Right.
You know, it's just always my shop. The shop, like I showed you the sign in there. My shop when I started was called Innovative Styles.
Right.
So you know, the kind of name speaks for itself. Trying to innovate new styles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Trying to take it to the next level. You know what I mean? Something
you're
different.
You're the trendsetter.
There you go, and that's
or,
funny.
or an influencer, like
yeah.
the
There
kids
you
say.
go. Yeah. And I always used to say I'm an innovator, not an imitator.
Right.
So I used to have shirts all kind of really, you know, opposite of being humble. I was a jerk, you know, a lot of times back in the day. I used to go to shows and point out things and look at this.
This line ain't straight.
I mean? Yeah, and you get humble real quick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Lord will humble you real quick.
That's right,
I mean?
man.
Yeah.
So, Rob, one of the cool things that I think a lot of people may not be aware of is that you teach classes on how to do your patterns, and you do them all the time. And people could just sign up and pay a fee and go learn from you.
Exactly.
So how does that work?
Man, we've been blessed. Been doing. We did Albuquerque October. We did Corpus Christi in March. We just did Colorado a month and a half ago, and we're going to be doing Albuquerque again coming up here in September. And the class, it's a 2-day class. I mean, it's you know, a lot of people, we charge $800 per student. It's a 2-day class, all materials included. We pre-flake a skateboard or a board. I mean, nice setup. You know, Ozzy, one of the kids that graduates from your bike, you know, the bike program, man, you know, just a blessing. Even just him getting the best graphics yesterday. I can't. Yeah. Literally, I felt like, you know, it almost brought me to tears yesterday. Literally. So I'm not saying that for, you know.
No, that's a fact. Yeah. That's one thing we need to mention. So I have a student that went through the bike program that we have, the Elite Leadership Lowrider Bike Club, graduated from there, took Rob's class, painted and molded his own bike, and yesterday at the Albuquerque Lowrider Super Show won best graphics on
graphics, which is like, I mean, that's like, there's so much bike competition out there, and for him to get that, like even Ozzy said, you know, this is before he took the class, and lucky a lot of people, I tell people, man, can I show you? Because, you know, I see something and it's like, I see what could have been added or what could be done to just kind of, you know, and not to be what do you call it, critical. There's a hard way to put it. You know, it'd be like my kids back in the day. Tell them, you don't know how to vacuum right. Should I ever teach them the 101 how to use a vacuum?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let me show you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, even Ozzy, I show, man, there's a couple little things he could have done. Little, you know, and he's like, man, most of the students, they'll be like, man, whatever you got to tell me, Rob, I'm here to listen.
Right.
You know, how to make it, you know, just that extra 5 to 10 minutes, and it could just be like that much more of a you know, eye stopper. And like Ozzy, it's like, man, for him, that bike before the class, like I say, and what he even did, what he's gonna be doing. He's one of those. He's a natural.
Well, he's gonna be working on my son's car, Christopher, Brown Boy Media, who's behind the camera.
Yeah,
he's gonna be working on that car to try to work on that paint a little bit and get it going. And I know he's gonna be somebody. That's for sure. Maybe the Rob of the Midwest.
There you go. and it takes, even with that, it takes you know, a lot. When I first started, people brought me their cars.
Right.
They just said, do whatever, Rob, and I got to just do whatever. You know what I mean? And I got to be like,
you gotta let them do it.
Don't do that. I'm not going to do that. And there's a lot of the style, especially that first 2 years, I was really just trying to find my style, trying to find my niche, and like I say, a lot of it was looking at other photos. And when you get all these different aspects and different people, I made it my own style.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it literally was a piece of this, a piece of that, from tape aids to the solid patterns to the turns to the old school ribbons to what, you know what I mean? And you make it your own. Take some time to get that figured out. You're gonna fail. You know what I mean? You're gonna make mistakes. Some of those mistakes actually end up
looking pretty cool.
Yeah. Like a lot of the cuts that people are doing now, like these little the little cuts, I call them skid marks.
Right.
Man, I did those, and it's like, man, that's like, it's kind of a mistake, and I kept them too. You know, one of the jobs I did back in, it'd be like probably 93, and it had a lot of those skids, and it's a lot what people are doing, and that was stuff by mistake. And then you're like, man, I actually like that. I'm not, you know what I mean?
That's awesome. So how do people contact you if they want to join one of your classes?
Usually Facebook, Instagram, and even my phone number, 505-385-1095.
Okay, so we'll put that on the comments down there so people can reach you, man. And you know what, man, like I said, I think that you are just an all-around amazing person. I think you're a great role model. Not only teaching the craft that you do in these classes, but being able to talk to people about the Lord and you know, be an example. I think that's huge. So one of the questions that I ask everybody that I interview, man, is if you had a time machine and you can go back in time when you were a kid, right? So you hop on this thing, boom, you're back in the day when you were a kid. What advice would you give yourself?
Well, and this would kind of tie in a little bit what I talked about earlier. I mean, I could go back, change some things,
right?
And you know, I guess I could say real quick, you know, there's some choices, of course, not using meth.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people at the same time, OG Abel. Mm-hmm. You know, he did George's car, Casanova, at the same time I did it. Mm-hmm. His name, that was kind of our blow up in the lowrider game,
right?
You know, worldwide.
Right.
Him, he ran with it, his name, marketing himself, was clean, you know, went about it the right way. Me, I went about it as back to that meth, doing more meth, trying to do more patterns, trying to get more crazy. And you know how the devil, I don't care. Like I tell people, I never was out on the party scene. It was me, the meth, and the car. And like I say, my family had get neglected, but I spent hours in wherever shop I was at, me, the meth, and the car, just trying to just do that next best thing. So that'd be one thing. I just, I wish I wasn't using. I wish I'd have got cleaner earlier. But like I say, I know God used.
Right.
There's a time, His timing of when I got clean. 42 years old when I got clean. I'm 50. I'll be 53 this year. And I wouldn't change a thing for that. But as far as just some better choices, you know what I mean?
That's
literally better choices. But I would never change. Being in the lowrider scene, you know what I mean?
So yesterday, Rob, we got asked a question that I think is a real good one. And the question was, what is lowriding to you? What does the culture mean to you? Can you tell me what that means to you?
Well, to me, and I'm gonna actually go, like with what your answer was, which, I'm just being real while we're here.
Right.
It's like, man, sometimes you don't really think of it. Like you said yesterday, it's the person,
right.
You know what I mean? And me, I didn't really say, I look at it more, because it's coming from you, it's coming from a different point of view.
Right.
So like I say, I'd really like to answer what you said yesterday, but to me, it's the car. And of course it is like you had said, it's the person that makes, but to me, it's the car. It really starts with the car.
Right.
I guess I can branch off what you said yesterday, but, expand on it a little bit. But like I say, I really liked your answer yesterday. And if you would have never answered the way you answered yesterday, some of us, sometimes you're in a little box,
yeah,
and then you hear somebody else, it's like, what is it when you got three people and you're trying to put something together?
Right.
One person knows how to do it one way, one person will do it another way, and all three of you, it's like, man, you can work together. But even just answer-wise, it starts from the car, through a low rider, that's where it comes from, and it ventures out to that. And just like we talk about the back stigma versus now, it's like, man, like the video they put together for Kansas, that video is just amazing. Right. I like the whole, everybody's answer of what it was, and it is. It doesn't have to be the gangbanger, the drug dealer, the whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a whole, it's a way of life. You know what I mean? It's the way you dress, the car, and like I say, mainly like what I answered yesterday was the car. I mean, it's the patterns, the flake to me. Man, I hate to say I walk by cars that are just straight colors. I just, you know what
Boring.
I mean? Yeah, I mean it is, and I do, and I hate to say like all the cars. It's like, man, you've seen a 62, so white. You've seen a black, a 59. I go and I hate to say I walk by cars, right to the pattern. It's just that's my, and I don't mean no disrespect to nobody. Yeah. It's just me. That's my patterns. The magazine, Lowrider. I flip through it. And even the girls back then, I mean, trust me, I like, you know what I mean? It's like, a lot of people, man, I get it for the girls, you know what I mean? I'd say, man.
You say, what girl? I was looking at
the patterns. Looking at the car, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I flip through, patterns, and nope, no patterns. So there's only 2 cars in there with patterns. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean?
That's funny,
So it's mainly, it's the patterns, the spokes, the white walls, like my car just got recently, Bill just did my interior, wrinkle and biscuit with the mirrors.
Right, old school.
I'm OG, old
Oh,
school.
yeah.
Never dug this hot rod style interior. I don't care
Right.
what they do to it. You know, that's you keep changing more like a lowrider. I mean, you know, like a hot rod.
You gotta
and
become
then
a hot rod.
Eventuate, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, there's a thin line where you're gonna have that hot rod interior and LS.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're gonna
Spokes are gone.
You're gonna put bags on it.
Yeah,
Next thing you know,
exactly.
swap
Yeah.
the spokes. These 20s look better.
Exactly. There you go. And it's
Yeah.
like, man, it's not even a lowrider no more.
Right,
What
right.
happened? No more flake.
Exactly.
We're gonna do it a cream. You know what I mean? Something smooth. You know, it's like,
Right.
you know.
No, I agree with you, man. And you know, to let you guys know, my answer yesterday was really more about the people. But I think to tie what Rob is saying with what I was saying, you know, I work with kids. I work with the community as far as building these kids that are to me lowriders. Rob works on the car side of it, and these are all pieces of the puzzle as to what low riding is. It is cars, it is people, it is community, it is family. I consider my kids and my wife low riders. You know what I mean? We are a low riding family. But yeah, when we go low riding, we get in a car with, you know, flake and candy. So, you know, it's all of that. But you know, man, you are a true lowrider in my opinion, man, and you are a great example of a lowrider because you're doing it right, brother. You're changing that stereotype. You're moving out of that site where people think that a lowrider is a Dr. Dre video and you know, gangbanging and all that. So, Rob, I appreciate you, man. I could talk to you for hours, but I know there's a little documentary that's gonna be done by you pretty soon by my son Chris from Brown Boy Media. So we'll look forward to that. And for now, man, I'll just end this interview by saying thank you so much for talking to me, and you are the man.
Definitely.
Thank you, brother Eric. Hey everyone, it's the Lowrider Teacher over here with Rob Vanderslice, and we just want to say thank you. We just reached 500 subscribers, which is a big deal to us, and if you have friends, you have some homeboys out there, let them know to come and subscribe, Rob.
Yeah, I definitely want to say something. Definitely subscribe to the Lowrider Teacher. You know, it's out there, a positive role model in the Lowrider Society, interviewing some people, some real interviews. So share with your friends, get it out there. Let's get this going. And I just want to thank you, Eric. Definitely.
Thank you,
Chris, on the other side of the camera.
Brown Boy Media, keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up.